Good day, everyone. Are you looking to monitor your Azure SQL database securely and efficiently? In this video, I will walk you through a step-by-step process to add an Azure SQL database as a SQL Target in Azure Database Watcher using SQL Authentication. But wait, we won't just stop there. To enhance security, we'll be leveraging Azure Key Vault to store our SQL credentials, ensuring a fully secure setup. By the end of this video, you will have a properly configured Azure Database Watcher monitoring your SQL database seamlessly and securely. So if you are ready, let's dive right in. But before we begin, if you find this content helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth Azure tutorials. Let's get started. DB Watcher is the database watcher resource that I deployed in my previous video. So if you look at it here, the status is showing as stopped, and the start and stop button here is disabled. Yeah. So this is what you will see when you deploy the database watcher for the first time and you don't have any SQL targets added. Yeah. So now, if you see here, we have the SQL targets here as blank. Like I have not added any resource here. Yeah. So now what happens is like if you don't add any resources, you will see the database watcher stopped, and you will not be able to start it unless you add a SQL target. So let's look at the Azure SQL database that is available in my subscription. And if you see here, I have two Azure SQL databases. The first one is JBDB, that's on the server JBS server. And second one is called, the database is called JB Finance, and that is on a server called JB Finance. Yeah. So now what I'm going to do is, like in this video, I'm going to add a JBDB database here into the database watcher, but I will be using the SQL authentication. Yeah, I'll not be using the Entra ID. I will be adding this particular database JB Finance using Entra ID, and that one would be on my next video. Yeah. So right now, what we'll do is like we will add this JBDB database into this database watcher here. And we will use the SQL authentication. Before we proceed, we need to create an Azure Key Vault. Let's try creating a Azure Key Vault. Let's go to the Key Vault here, and then let's click on Create. I will use the JB DB Watcher resource group for this. Let's name this Key Vault as JB Watcher Key Vault. Yeah, I will leave the region as used US and pricing tier as standard. I will leave other things as default here. Let's click on next. I'll not change anything here. And as far as this screen is concerned, I will allow public access, but in your production deployment, you will have to select what is appropriate for you. But since it is a demo, I'm going to utilize all networks here. Click on next, and then click on review plus create. Let's click on create here and wait for this key vault to get created. The deployment is completed. Let's go to the resource. So I'll be creating a couple of secrets here. One is for my username, and then the second one is for my password. So if you see here, I'm getting a message here saying like the operation is not allowed by RBAC. So I don't have proper access to this. So what I basically have to do is like I need to add required logins to access this particular key vault. Yeah, I will add the required logins, and then I will show you guys like what would be the roles that I've selected. Click on add, and then do a add role assignment. Let's search for Azure Key Vault Administrator. So I'm owner already for this particular subscription. So I will provide Key Vault Administrator permission for me. So we have this here, Key Vault Administrator. So let's click on next, and then add the required members. Okay, so this is my login here. So I'm going to click on review plus assign. Okay, so it is added now. Now what I'm going to do is like, let's head to the secrets, and then let's try creating a secret here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to use this particular information. The secret name for the username would be JB Watch username, and the username, the actual SQL username would be JB Watcher. Yeah, so let's put that information, and then let's put the username here. Yep. So if you see here, the name of the secret is JB Watch username, and then the secret value would be your actual username. Yeah. Let's click on create here, and then let's see if it gets created. So if you see here, in case if you get an error, that means that you don't have access. You can look at it further, but as soon as I provided that administrator privilege, I'm able to create it. Now what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to create one secret for the password. Okay, so the name is JB Watch password, and then I'm going to use this password here. Yeah, so just keep in mind, like this is a demo. So after this video is created, I'll be dropping all these secrets here, including the key vault. But yeah, in your real world application, wherever you're going to apply this, it's always good to use Entra ID instead of SQL authentication. But just in case if you're using an SQL authentication ID, then you need to secure your password and also like have a very strong password. Okay. Now that the key vault is created and also the secrets are created, now what we need to do is like, we need to create the required SQL login into the Azure SQL database. Yeah. So if you remember the details here, the username is called, that is the SQL authentication login is called JB Watcher, and this is the password. Yeah. So now what we need to do is like, we need to create this particular login here. Yeah. What you can do is like, I've just copied it already. Yeah. But if you want to get the code, what we can do is like, we can go to the SQL Target, and then we can get that information. Let's head to the database watcher, and as far as the SQL targets are concerned, what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to create a SQL target here for that JBDB SQL database. Yeah, and now what I'm going to do is like, I'm going to utilize the SQL authentication, right? So if you see here, to grant the access, we have this option, Azure SQL Database and Elastic Pools with SQL authentication. So what you can do is like, you can copy the script, yeah, and then put that in the SSMS, and then you can change the login name. So what I'm doing is like, I'm creating a login with the same name as the database watcher. Yeah, so you can copy that, and then you can put it in the SSMS, and then change this login name placeholder to the login name required. Yeah, in my case, I'm using the login name as JB Watcher because that's the one that I've created in my Azure Key Vault as well. So if you see here, this is the username and this is the password that I've created in the Key Vault. I'm going to use the same thing in my Azure SQL database as well, and you have to do the same one. Yeah. So now let's go to the SSMS, and what you need to do is like, you need to create that. Yep. Once this is created, what we will have to do is like, we need to add that this particular Azure SQL Database JB server. If you see here, this JB server needs to be added as an SQL target. Let's head to the SQL target here in the database watcher, and then let's try adding it. Let's click on this add here. Yep. So in my case, a resource type would be Azure SQL Database. Yeah. You need to select the required subscription here. Once the subscription is selected, you need to select the required server. So I have these two things. I'm going to use JB server here. Yeah. So that's the one that I'm going to use. I'm going to select the required database. I just have only one database that is called JBDB. So I'm going to select that. Yeah. Now, if you are going to add read intent database, that is like if it is in secondary and it is enabled for read queries, then you can do that. But as of now, I'm not going to do it. I'm will show you a future video where I will be doing this. Yeah. So if you see here, it basically tells like if you want to monitor a readable high availability replica, then you will have to use that. So yeah, but now this is my primary. So this is the only SQL database that I have. So I'm going to select that and I'm going to check this box called use SQL authentication. Yeah. Okay, so as soon as I selected use SQL authentication, I got these additional information here. I've selected the required subscription. Yeah, now I'm going to select the resource group where I have my key vault. Yeah, so in my case, the key vault is in JVDB Watcher. So let's select that. And then if you remember, we created two secrets, right? The JB Watch username and JB Watch password. Instead of providing the actual username and password, I'm going to secret name and for the username and password. That way, I will make sure like the setup is highly secure because I'm nowhere providing my username and password directly. Yeah. So now what we will do is let's click on add and then wait for this SQL target to be added here. Okay, so the target is added. If you can see here, the JBDB database that's on the JB server is added now. Let's give it a couple of minutes and then look at the dashboard. Let's go to the dashboard, yeah, and then see if we can see that. So if you see here, we don't see any resources here, yeah. But what we need to do is like we need to first check if the database watcher is started. So if you see here, the status is stopped still. So what we'll go ahead is like we'll go and start it. But just remember one thing, like when we started, we were able to see that both start and stop were disabled, yeah. But now, as soon as I added one SQL target, now we have an option to start the database watcher. So just started it. Let's wait for it to come online and then we will check the dashboard. Database watcher is running now. Yeah, so let's head to the dashboard now and then see if we are able to see the Azure SQL database added. So if you see here, under Azure SQL Database, we are able to see a number 1 there. So let's click on that and then see if we can see the JB server. So if you see here, we are able to see that this JB server is successfully added. And just a recap, what we have done is like we added this JB server into the database watcher as an SQL target and we use the SQL authentication. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Jai Hind.